Let's see some fundamentals of scientific research. And so what is a scientific research? First of all, you have to be objective. It's not your own opinion. So when writing a research work, about giving your own opinion. You don't say, I think that autonomous cars are good. A lot of consumers will use smart homes. That's not the aim of research. It should be objective. It's not a journalistic article, right? Because also in journalistic articles, it's quite exaggerated. People are always trying to dramatic. That's not the aim of research. Research should be neutral. It should be based on literature. That is why you have to start with the literature. And in the literature, you will see what are actually the point of views of researchers. Sometimes they might be mitigated in contrast of what you think. That's researcher. It should be neutral. You should state neutrally different point of views. On the one side, researchers think that trust has an impact on loyalty. On the other side, researchers think that trust is not important. And so you argue or you summarize actually the state of art of literature. That is what you have to do in the literature. Avoid unreflected value positions, judgments, opinions of journalists. Avoid dramatic statements. For example, the market for IoT will explode in the next 10 years. And this is actually not the terms you should use. This is journalistic jargon, which should not be used. You should write it neutrally. It's not to show that everything's back together. You should show things how they are. The evaluation must be based on the text, so you can criticize what you read, but always justify yourself. It is as for the hypothesis. Don't enumerate the hypothesis. Hypothesis 1, trust has a positive impact on loyalty. Hypothesis 2, loyalty has a positive impact on customer engagement. Hypothesis 3, customer engagement has a positive impact on customer lifetime. No, it's not like that we are doing this. You have to justify. You have to bring the reader progressively to the hypothesis. Now you have to say, okay, literature shows that trust has a significant positive impact on trust. First of all, trust is defined as a feeling that person will not be betrayed by opportunistic behaviors from other party. This is how trust is defined. So you start with the definition. And then you show, and literature shows that trust has a significant impact on loyalty. This is shown in a very extensive research stream about the relationship marketing, for example, Morgan and Hunt, 1994. But that is why we consider also that in the context of technologies, IoT or smart homes, trust has a significant impact on purchase intention. Thus, we hypothesize, H1, trust has a positive impact on purchase intention. Okay, so you write a small section every time. And if you have different point of views of research, you say, on the one hand, X, Y, right? Or a lot of researchers show that, for example, privacy concerns have negative impact on trust. On the other hand, other researchers show that privacy concerns do not have impact on trust because actually customers are not really aware about privacy risk on the internet. But you show both of views if you have contrary point of views. Which means that, but at one point, you have to choose one or other side. So you can say, but actually, in the context of smart homes, we think that privacy concerns have probably negative impact on trust. That is why we hypothesize privacy concerns have a negative impact on trust. Okay, so when we say state of art of the literature, you derive the hypothesis by describing literature. So the work should be traceable. That is why you're doing citations, which means that you've read the argument. This is more, how did you do the literature review? How did you master the literature? How do you explain and derive the hypothesis? How do you master the theory? How do you use the analysis, interpret the analysis? How do you discuss the results? This is rather more we're focusing on. So it's more about formal exercise you have to do. Exigencies are moral. First of all, we expect no plagiarism. You really be aware about copy-paste things. Don't copy-paste stupidly from articles into your document, because today all universities use plagiarism software, which means that it is scanned and compared with millions of research documents. And if the similarity is higher than 80% with existing documents, it is rejected. Right? You have to rewrite the document. Read an article, you want to summarize it, so you do copy paste, and 3 months later you don't remember that it was only a copy paste document. When you read an article and when you summarize an article, write it in your own words and don't only copy paste it in your Word document.
Always cite with the citation software the author's ideas and concepts you have read to avoid plagiarism. Again, a plagiarized thesis is rejected and cannot be defended.
State where this definition of a concept comes from. Who defined this concept? Always cite in brackets, and then you're on the safe side. Technical exigencies should be objective and to be verified for everybody, but reliability means that normally research should be replicated, repeated, and you should get the same results. In other words, you research about smart homes or autonomous cars. If we would want to do good research, we should replicate it now. We should replicate it in different countries. So China, Thailand, France, Germany. And normally we should have quite similar results. Or there might be cultural differences that explain the difference. But to see if our results are generalizable, it would make sense, it would be urgent to replicate it in China, to see if the Chinese results are the same in Shanghai, in Beijing, or Hong Kong, or any other Chinese city. Or we should replicate it in Germany, in other cities, or in France, in order to see if it holds. And we should even replicate it every year to see if the results do not change with the time.
But replications take time. That is why in academic social science literature, replications are rarely done, but they are very important. Important because they show that results that you find in the scientific research are independent or not dependent of time, no? Because if you replicate, you should find with the time in long time studies the same results, independent of geography. So you should find the same results in Paris than in Toulouse, for example, for a French sample, or in Shanghai or Beijing for a Chinese sample, or in Bangkok or Chiang Mai for a Thai sample, or in Germany, in Frankfurt, such as in Munich. So that is why replications should hold over time and should hold over geography. That is why it is difficult and very time-consuming to do replications. But good research should be replicated. As we are not doing replications in management science or social science, we don't find universal laws like we have them in physics or in mathematics. Like, for example, the Newton law of universal gravitation, which states that every particle attracts every other particle in the universe with a force that is directly proportional to the product of the masses and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between the centers. So with this law, aeronautics and aeronautic firms can directly calculate if an object, if a plane will fly, because it's a universal law, a hard law. But in social science, we don't have these hard laws because we don't do replications and because we are working with humans. So it's not so easy like in physics to calculate universal laws. But the Newton law shows you that it's very important to have laws. But these laws, to come back to social science, can only be obtained by do replications in order to see if the results, the theories hold over geographical regions and hold over different time frames.
Statistic exigence, as I said, you need linguistic style, good written design, and the formal style, that is templates you can use, don't change. Typography, be coherent in the whole document. The whole document should be clean.
You might use a template, which the format of Word with the different chapters. It makes sense, but the aim is to give us at the end of your research a clean document without any errors and typos.
The goals of a research work is to answer your central research question. So you have a research question that you have to define. The research question won't fall down from the sky. You have to find from the literature review. That is why you have to do literature review. So you have to read literature in order to formulate your research question.
That is why we will see more in detail in a subsequent chapter how to do a literature review. So in your scientific work of management science, you have to do the current state of science, that is the status quo, which should be summarized in your chapter literature research. If you do a quantitative approach or deductive approach, you can establish hypotheses, which are deductively established, and then test it with an empirical investigation. You verify the hypothesis by using literature and by empirically studying them. If you're working inductively or qualitative, you can ask research questions, open research questions. Then, in the next step, data is collected, qualitative or quantitatively, so which focus groups, for example, or text mining for qualitative approach, and with questionnaires and closed question and measurement scales in a quantitative approach. And you should critically discuss your results in light with your literature research, which is done in the chapter discussion of the results. And so you do a first literature review in the chapter literature review, and you come back to your literature review in your chapter after the results, in the chapter discussion of results, to compare what you have found with the status quo of the literature. Discussion of the results means that you compare your results with the results of the literature. If you find similarities, then you are in line with literature, and this should be stated. If you find different results, you are not in line with literature, and you should explain why. So it might come from your data, it might come from the context, it might come from theory. So this is the important point to do, and important action to do in the section discussion of results. So you should show why your results are different, and you should explain why these differences are observed in your data set. After that section, you should develop the chapter theoretical contributions, in which you should show what you contribute to the theory, how you enhance theory, which new concepts you brought into theory. So all these theoretical contributions should be developed then. The central research questions should be answered at the end of your research work, and you should give recommendations for managers, which is called the chapter at the end of your research work called managerial contribution. There you should explain why and how you can contribute to managers, how you can help them, which are the recommendations coming straightly from your research. And the last chapter, or the last aim of research, is to show the limits of your research. No research is perfect, so you have to show what are the limits or weaknesses of your research, and which are the future research directions. In other words, what would you recommend to future research to do to enhance or to improve your work? Because this is then again the starting point or basis for other researchers or other research about the domain, about the topic. And this is summarized in the chapter at the end of your thesis called Research Limits and Future Research Directions.
What are the goals? And so, first goal is to formulate a research question. Second goal is to find literature that gives an answer to the research question. Third goal is to raise a methodology that enables you to give an answer to your research question. And in the discussion of the results, you give the answer to your research question. How in line with literature or not. And you discuss how you contribute to literature and in which way. And contribution means what you bring, what is new.
And subsequently, you have to show your contributions to practice and give managerial recommendations. And finally, you have to show the limits of your study, as no research is perfect. You have to show which are the limits, and based on that, you have to give future research directions based on the limits and how you could improve your research.